Um, just wait for a couple more people to join. I feel so alive right now. I have not done a stream prep 100% by myself in a while. I'm very, very ashamed to say. And I really just missed it because I was like, I just miss being like locked in on a topic and figuring out like what's the best story flow. And like all the peace and love and gratitude to all the people that helped me. But I feel like doing it myself, it just always turns out better. Like there's nothing like doing something on your own. Like you know how you want it done. You know what I mean? So I'm so happy to be dedicating more time to this again. And tonight I think is going to be very interesting for you all. Lemur Banana, thank you for subscribing for 26 months. Also, I have a little snack for me. Little. I literally just finished eating dinner 7 minutes ago. It's fudge. I went to go get this desk from Facebook Marketplace and it was so far away. It was literally an hour and a half away. But I just really wanted it. And there was a farm nearby. They're like, we sell baked goods and we're a farm and we sell like produce. And I went. This fudge is very good. I don't know a lick about this stream topic, so I'm eager to learn. That's one thing. Sometimes with a stream topic, I'm like, oh my God, there's so much information. What do I include? That was not the case with this. I feel like this is the perfect topic. Like it's the perfect length of time. It's the perfect level of nuance. It's something where we can just kind of kick back and relax and like it's just a good one. Yeah. Next week we're doing the Ashley Madison hack. That's the website for cheating that a bunch of people were on. And then there was drama about it, like with the Duggars. They were affected. It's a good one. Loving this background. Right? Isn't it so cute? Let me move the chat. Okay. And please donate to the GoFundMe. As always, I just posted a video today about like the state of our country right now. It's jarring. Have we done a stream about the AIDS epidemic? We have not. It's not off my list, but that's a good example of a topic that there's so many different things to talk about it that you just kind of have to figure out what exactly you want to talk about within it. Here from TikTok to YouTube to Twitch to Pipeline, I just kind of never fixed TikTok Live, which is probably why my views have been kind of bad, but I don't really care. I just never fixed TikTok Live. And I probably should. Let me add that. I have a to-do list on paper. It's a good one. Let me show you this planner, actually. I got it on Amazon, sorry. But it's like you write the week so you can start it whenever. And then I like the way it's laid out. So it's like every day of the week, including weekends. I wish it had a separate box for Saturday and Sunday, but it doesn't, but that's fine. And then on the other side, to do priorities. And what I really like is this habit tracker. And then it has like all 7 days of the week there and you can like total it up. So I really like that it's like, it's a very structured, but not overly structured because some of them are way, way, way too structured. Let me find it. It's kind of like, it says weekly planner. I got a green one, which is fine. It's like, it was pretty cheap. Let me get the link for y'all. Hold on. How's everyone feeling out there tonight? You're good? Okay, you and the fucking pass keys. Okay, like I'm trying my best. Planner? Sorry, I bought a lot of stuff recently. That's not great. Okay, yeah, it's $7.59. Medical care Amazon? What does that mean? I need Love Island opinions. I don't watch that show, unfortunately. Okay, there's the Amazon link. Enjoy. Oh, let me put it on the multi-stream. Where are my tubers? YouTubers? I quit my teaching job this week. Congratulations. Congratulations. Okay. Let's go ahead and get into it. We've been here for 4 minutes now. I really don't have that much news to share. Normally I start these and I'm like, you're not going to believe this. But like I've kind of been chilling. Other than Wells Fargo kind of ruining my life. See Twitter if you would like details about that. Everything's been good over here. We're out of school, so I'm kind of vibing right now. I just feel like I'm very low on this. There we go. Congrats to the people quitting their jobs. It's really the best feeling in the world. So, the Mormon madoff. Let's get into it. So, let me give you, oh my God. Why is it messed up like that? I need to fix it. Sorry. Clearly, I made this myself. I'm going to fix it. I meant to earlier and I forgot. Oh well. Okay. There we go. Da-da. Da-da. Boom. Fixed. So, Sean Merriman, you're going to see his name spelled differently at different points in this. This is the correct spelling. Some of it, it's spelled wrong because it's like, I was pulling quotes from podcast, so some of the transcriptions spell his name different ways, and I could have gone through and changed it, but he kind of sucks, so I didn't feel like I owed that to him. So, there's a TLDR, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty. He told his wife that he was basically living a double life, not in like an affair way, but in like a finance way. He had been running a $20 million Ponzi scheme for over a decade. A Ponzi scheme is basically where you do fraud. So this is the basics of a Ponzi scheme. I'm not a financial analyst. I'm not like a lawyer. I don't know. But from what I understand, let's say I'm doing the Ponzi. I go to y'all and I'm like, hey, give me some money. I'm going to invest it for you into all these stocks, and then you'll make a bunch of money. And y'all trust me because I'm beautiful and fabulous. And you're like, okay. And then you give me the money, and then I lose it. And then I go on a different app, and I'm like, hey, y'all, invest with me. I'll make so much money. It'll be great. And then they give me money, and then I give their money to you. And I'm like, see, look how much money I made. And then you just keep doing that. And it just keeps getting worse the more it goes on. That's obviously an oversimplification, but that's the best I can give you at this point in time. So he was the head of a successful investment company and a bishop at their church. They're Mormon, if you didn't pick that up. And he turned himself into federal agents and was in prison for fraud. The government seized and repossessed all of their assets, and he was dubbed the Mormon Madoff and sentenced to 12 years behind bars. So that is like a summary of what we're going to be talking about. Let me know if y'all like it when I do a summary like that or not, because like spoilers, but I kind of like you to see where we're going in this. Not to be confused with Sean with an E at the end, Merriman, who is an American football linebacker. I do not know anything about him. Maybe he's good, maybe he's bad. I truly know nothing about him, but he was in the NFL. This is not him. He has not done fraud, as to my knowledge. But every time I was trying to Google, like how I was saying, this is not something where I had an excess of information, because whenever I would try and Google this motherfucker, this football player would come up. And I was like, I don't care. Like I'm sure you're great or whatever, but like that's not what this is about. I don't know. He's kind of hot. You said it, not me. So the correct Sean Richard Merriman, was born in Aurora, Colorado. I think he was born in 1963, but that is based on me seeing, they put his age in an article about him that was written in like 2009. So like that's me doing some math based on someone else's knowledge of his age. So that could be wrong. He's older, like he was born in the 60s. So his father was also Richard Merriman, worked as like a plumber, construction worker apparently, and his mother, I could not find her name, but she was like stay-at-home mom vibes. This is again like very vague. This guy doesn't even have a Wikipedia profile. Do you know how hard it is to do a stream about someone who doesn't have a Wikipedia profile? But I did it. He grew up in a middle-class LDS family, because keep in mind, this is like the 60s and 70s, so like a construction worker plumber actually could support a family of 4 with a stay-at-home mom. Like that was pretty the norm. So according to his ex-wife, his dad was a construction worker. They moved all around the country during his childhood, 11 times their 7 or 8 years, and there was a lot of alcoholism and divorce. So I don't fucking know what his deal is with his childhood. This is literally all I can find. And you'll notice there are many, many quotes in this stream from his ex-wife. She has been very public in the media. She's been on television multiple times. She's been in podcasts. So I have tons of quotes from her. He has not said a fucking peep. So this is going to be kind of one-sided, but I don't really care. That's fine. This is why I think it was good that I didn't go to journalism school. I think that was a good move on my part. So according to his ex-wife, college was a bit of a struggle for him. She said that he didn't have the grades, but he made up for it with his trademark charm. Red flag. He started sending flowers to the woman in charge of admissions, and eventually he got admitted to the school being Brigham Young University. Colorado is near Utah, and there's lots of Mormons in both of them. So many of these events were in Colorado, but Utah will come up on occasion. Why do I think he unalived himself like Madoff? Madoff killed himself? I don't really know anything about Madoff, I'm going to be honest. I just looked at your Twitter. Did you get the Wells Fargo thing figured out? No. Did I make progress? Yes. Is it resolved? No. So, I feel like that kind of paints a picture of who this guy is. He's a Mormon, middle class, charismatic, got into school in kind of a scammy way. His wife, she's low-key the main character. Like, she is the main character tonight, just because, like, he could have been the main character, but he chose to never say anything in the media about this. So, his wife was born rich bitch. She was very, very wealthy. They had a large home. They went on Hawaiian vacations. They even used a private plane for weekend trips. She said it was very common that they would be like, oh, let's Friday after school, take the private plane to Arizona to enjoy the sun for the weekend, and then we'll fly back Sunday night. She said they did that all of the time. Her mother held a master's degree, which, keep in mind, this is like 60s, 70s, not the most usual for the time. Not only that, her dad would like acknowledge it. Like, her dad was like, if you need help with your homework, ask your mom. She's a smart one in the family. And like, I know the bar is literally on the floor, but do you get what I'm saying? That like, that is pretty like dope. Like, rich as fuck, you have a master's degree and your husband respects you. Like, that's lottery shit for this era, still to this day. So, she grew up very committed in the LDS Church, the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That is the Mormons, if you don't know. And she said CTR was really big in her childhood. That means choose the right, which means, like, you have a ring that says CTR. If you watch Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, they were talking about this. You have rings that say it. It's on necklaces. They embroider it on towels, and it means to, like, do the moral, righteous thing. And she said that this deeply influenced her outlook. So she was very, like, ethical, I guess you could say. And her parents were apparently very strict, even though they were very rich. All the kids had to do chores. They were all raised very, like, they were raised with the requirement, like, it's known you have to get very good grades. Like, it seems like their family did not play. Like, they were the it family, and they were holding up to the name. You know what I mean? I'm so sick of a lazy man marrying up. I just found out this is my boss's retirement plan. Ugh, lame. Very Charlie, thank you for subscribing. Dude, when she said in one of her TikToks that they had a Rembrandt painting in her home, I was gagged. What is that like? Exactly. She grew up rich. So, these are some quotes for her. And from the podcast, like interviewers. We had jobs around the house. If we did it, it was $1 a week. My parents wanted us to teach us responsibility and accountability. When you're a child, they give you a ring. It says CTR. Part of the culture is to be obedient with good principles. My mom held a master's degree. If you asked who could really help you with homework, my dad would say the smartest in our family was our mother. So, she said, my dad wanted me to be a lawyer. It's what I went to school thinking I would do. And along the way, she found that she really loved advertising and public relations. She also went to BYU. So she went there with the intention of going on to law school, but then after taking classes was like, no, I want to work in PR. So like, cool, fine, pretty normal experience in college. This is helping me psychoanalyze my Mormon coworker. I'm going to need you to DM me and tell me everything about your Mormon coworker, because now I would like to be a part of that as well, personally. I think that's something that would be really good for society. She took a PR job at her apartment complex. I think it's a little bit bold to call this a PR job. She worked in the office there, so I guess like leasing is technically PR. And she met Sean because she was processing his rent payments, and that's how they like cross paths for the first time. She said he came into the office to pay his rent, and I processed that for him. She would see him around the building, but they'd never really talked before. She said, my roommates in my apartment were good friends with the guys, and his apartment people thought highly of him and his roommates, and they did fun things and seemed to be good people. So, very much normal way to meet someone in college. Like, you're working, he lives there, hey, like so normal. Ashley V. Westfall, thank you for subscribing with Prime for 10 months. That's a long time. The eating ASMR is a struggle for me. I'll stop. I'll take a break from the fudge. I always forget that y'all can like hear it. like for real. But I think of y'all, like, how do I explain this? When I'm in class with my students, I will eat while I'm teaching. Like, it really, because I let them eat. So that's kind of like what I apply here. But it is really gross to hear someone on a microphone eat, so I probably shouldn't. So they're meeting in college life. Again, this is all according to her. He has not decided to confirm or deny any of this. He was proud of this story. He had always had fabulous stories to entertain people with. This is her talking about how he did the flowers for the admission. So she told the story of how he did that, and he would like tell people that all the time, which like, if maybe keep that shit to yourself. He was interested in things most college kids weren't. He was into photography, he was into cars, he was into building things. Soon after they met, Sean asked her out and he impressed her right away. Knowing that she liked music, he took her to the symphony for their first date. And from then on, they spent every weekend together. And she said he did not do the typical cheap, low-budget, crazy college dates. He took me to the best restaurants, 2 concerts, and he'd take you out in his BMW. He always was a very engaging, outgoing, and charming person. So from the jump, he's like wooing her. Like, he's like, Sean would get me. Okay. And her name is ANDREA. We'll talk more about her in a moment as well. Ex-Mormon here will answer any random questions about Mormon stuff. BYU goes to a model conference with me and my debate partner and would always eat lunch with them to learn the Mormon drama. Sweet, sweet symphony. So on a date, she wore a pearl necklace. He was like, beautiful necklace. And she was like, oh, I borrowed it from my friend. And then a few days later, he gave her a pearl necklace and was like, you're too beautiful to borrow one. She said, just showed up at my door unexpectedly with a jewelry box. I opened it and it was a pearl necklace. He said, any woman as beautiful as you should not have to borrow pearls. I mean, that's what it was like to date Sean Merriman. I remember thinking, wow, all the other boys I've dated, if they tried to do these grand gestures or date this way, it would seem really cheesy and corny. But it works for Sean, and it was just like in the movies. So he's charming as fuck. Like, I can recognize game. Like, but with a face like that, I think you'd have to. We're just going to take a moment to pause here. She looks amazing. She looks absolutely beautiful. Stunning, even. You know who she kind of looks like to me? Brittany Broski. Do you see it? Beautiful. Stuart Little parents. Why was I picturing a hottie? They're similar in age. Yeah, no, they're like roughly the same age. They're in college at the same time, so they can't be that different in age. Too charming, but I admit I'm jaded. That's one thing. Okay, so I was watching a show with my fiance, and this guy took this woman out on a date and got her flowers and all this stuff, and it was at his restaurant, and then like the food was on fire, and I was like, no, he's a whore. And my fiance was like, what's wrong with you? This is such a nice date to give someone on. And I was like, it's too nice. It's too good. It feels rehearsed. Like, it feels like you've done this hundreds of times before. Like, it's a play. You know, like on a first date, I want to see you stumble a little bit. I want to see them nerves. But when it's too good and you can tell he's so he was like, yeah, I do. Yeah, all for you. And I was like, he's eating it up like too much. Like, he's like enjoying the moment too much. I'm sitting here like, oh, he'd charm me, as if I'm not a lesbian. I mean, if you look at the outfit. I'm unfamiliar with this topic. I just hopped on. And why do I recognize the name Sean Merriman? It is also the name of a famous football player who is not this man. That might be why. So yeah. That's a lot. So, where's this motherfucker getting his money? Because he came from a regular middle-class family, and he's a college student. So, how is he doing all of this? Apparently, he had a business installing home stereo systems for people, which would pay very well, and it is the 1980s. So, I guess if you were doing that, and that is a business you could do well in college, because you could, like, arrange your installations. So, like, yeah, okay. That seems legit. That seems legit to me. But you're right. It could be a scam. This is what she said. Because again, he has not talked. Is he mute? I don't know. This is what she said about this. So you could be right. This could all be a front and a lie. So her telling of the story. We did everything that I loved. He knew that I loved the beach. He knew that I loved 80s music. He knew that I loved travel. And I thought I was finding someone who believed the way I did on everything. After a few months of dating, the two took a trip to California where they're on the beach. He got down on one knee. Going through my head was mostly, wait, I'm only 22. I'm too young to do this. 22 is young because she had said, oh, I really wanted to graduate and start my career before I got married. But she said that saying yes to him just felt right, so she said yes, even though she was still in college. She said, I don't know that I thought he was the one, but I thought he would be a great friend, a great partner, a great companion, a great provider, and great father. And am I going to find somebody just like him again? Again, if I pass this by, I saw enough of those qualities and things that I wanted as a part of my future. So when he proposed, I said yes. It seems like she was making a very logical and rational choice. She was like, I enjoy this man's company. He's going to be a good provider. He's so polite. This is the smart, good thing to do right now. This makes a lot of sense. For me and my boyfriend's first date, my boyfriend couldn't find my apartment and his phone wasn't working. He was an hour late picking me up from my house because he was asking my neighbors where my address was. That's pretty good. For some reason, my chat is stuck here, but not there. Very interesting. Now that's a story. He apologized so much. That's why I still went out with him. Because I had the story corroborated from the neighbors, I think I would be fine with it. But if I didn't have the neighbors to vouch for him, I'd be like, no. No, I think it felt profitable to him and he love bombed her. Interesting. I love how y'all are so on board to hate him immediately. So here's their wedding photo. Yeah. She looks absolutely stunning. That's what I want to focus on today, is that she looks amazing. Do you see her? Look at her. Wow. And the pearls. There they are. Beautiful. So this is about their early marriage. We were on a good course together. We were equally yoked as a couple to move forward and create the life of our dreams. He initially wanted them to move to Washington, D.C., and he interviewed with the CIA, red flag, and he was going to try and go to an Ivy League school to get an MBA, but they decided to settle down in Colorado, where they were both from, even though they met at BYU. They moved to Denver for her job, actually. She got a public relations position at a government agency. So he's like, you got a job there? Great, we'll move there. He began to love the city and he got a job at an investment firm where he began working as a stockbroker and was immediately very successful at being a stockbroker. She's so gorgeous and he looks like he snuck into Earth. He couldn't get into BYU. 2 months and he didn't even wait till she graduated. Feels disrespectful. She's literally stunning. So, when it came to investing, he seemed to have the Midas touch. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. Between September and December of 1990, he made $50,000. That's a lot of money. $50,000 from September to December in 1990? That's a lot of money. That's very remarkable for someone who was pretty freshly out of college. By the early 1990s, he was making $200,000 annually, which in today's money would be about $480,000 a year. So literally crushing it. Literally crushing it. A lot of Mormons go into the CIA and FBI because they're used to following orders and don't do drugs and drink. That is true. I have even heard that the FBI and the CIA go to BYU to recruit because they're like, okay, that means you can pass all these fucking drug tests we have to give you because they have to do a hair test. They can see everything you've ever done. So Mormon, check on that. And then 2, if you were raised Mormon, you are willing to follow strong authority blindly if you're a devout Mormon. And they're like, we love that trait. Come on in, brother. Charisma takes you so far, especially as a white man with big glasses in the 1980s. It really seems to be. So the money kept flowing. Investment firms noticed that he was really fucking good at this and began offering him generous signing bonuses to jump ship. So basically how this works if you're a stockbroker. So let's say I'm a stockbroker at, I don't know, I'll just use a state, the Bank of Alaska. I'm making so much money, I have a gazillion clients. So the bank is making money because I'm making money because they get part of my commission. That's how it works. So if I am fuck the Bank of Alaska. I'm going to go to the Bank of Oklahoma. My clients are probably going to come with me because I'm the one they talk to every day, and I'm the reason they're making money off my decisions and my advice. So why would they have any loyalty to the Bank of Alaska? Because I'm the one that's helping them. So if I'm leaving, they're probably going to come with me, like 9 times out of 10. So that's why the Bank of Oklahoma might be like, Miss Redacted, you're really good at this. If you want to come here, we'll just give you $80,000 just to say thank you for coming here. That's a very common practice for people that are good at this. Real estate brokerages do the same thing. They also like Mormons because they go on missions to foreign countries. So blonde white men are fluent in Japanese or whatever. I hadn't thought of that. I bet you're right. Because they are literally fucking everywhere. So, okay. So he began switching, firms multiple times in just a few years. That's kind of not great. Like if someone's switching firms constantly, that's like a little bit odd. It's not necessarily bad, but it's like, why? Shortly after their first child was born in 1993, Sean approached Andrea and was like, I have an idea. And she said he came home from work and told me that he had some very wealthy blue blood old money clients in Kansas City that were so impressed with the money management he had done for them that they wanted him to basically quit being a stockbroker and manage their money privately. So that way, instead of like going through a company for everything and them taking a cut, he would be working directly for these people. And so now he's basically independent. So it's like a lot more risk and a lot more responsibility because, so let's say I am a stockbroker for the Bank of Alaska. If like I do something bad and wrong and I mess up and you want to sue me, you're also suing the Bank of Alaska because that's my employer. But if you're on your own, you can do a lot more shadier stuff, but also it's much like high risk, high reward. You know what I mean? What is blue blood? That's a good question. Blue blood meaning. Oh, an aristocrat. You could have just say that. Ugh, whatever. So, she said he goes out, he's independent now, and she said he came home at night, had dinner with me, and had great stories about the trades he had made that day. He had no shortage of stories he could tell, conversations, he could share ideas that he had. So he's like loving work. He's like, yeah, I'm making the trades, I'm making the money, I'm going independent. Hell yeah. Life is good. His investment firm was thriving. They're making a ton of money. And Andrea is like, I want more children. We are Mormon. I want to have more children. And before they had gotten married, they agreed that they wanted 4 to 6 kids. So she was like, we are rich. We are Mormon. We are fertile. Let's have another one, because they have one at this point. So they eventually welcomed a second child. And while she was very immersed in motherhood, she was super happy. He was very consumed by work, so he was not really helping with the kids a ton. I'm going to have another baby. No, I don't want one. I want to travel. One time I said that to my class, and they were like, and I was like, do you guys not know that meme? And they were like, no. And I was like, yeah, I guess you wouldn't know Real Housewives of Beverly Hills meme. Mormon, more men, more children. Imagine being so rich you have to recruit people to make up jobs for them to figure out what to do with all your money. Like, that's so annoying. I wouldn't even do that. I'd be like, I'll just keep the money in the bank. It's fine. Like, if I had that much. So she said he was fine to play with the baby when he was home, etc. But he was not a hands-on, let me help bathe the baby, let me help change diapers. So he was kind of like, yeah, that baby's mine. It's so cute. Like, hang out with it, read it a book, pass it back. So when she wanted a third, he was like, I don't want a third kid. I'm super busy with work. She was like, don't even worry about it. I'll literally do everything. Like, we can have this third kid and it like won't even bother you. Like, we're good. And she said, and so I did everything, handled everything for the baby so that it wouldn't impact his life too much and I could have another child. So she's really the driving force behind having 4 children. Spoiler, they had another one. And I continued to do everything and manage the kids so it didn't impact his life. By the time we had our fourth kid, I could count the number of dirty diapers on one hand that he had changed. I think that's very telling. It really became he was busy working on his career and I was the partner in the relationship who was focused on home and family. So very common dynamic that they are in, like no tea, no shade. This is just what they're doing. So this is obviously like not when their children are very teeny tiny small, but here are their 4 children, as you can see. Decent age spread. It won't even bother you. Yeah, I know. Literally the bar's on the floor. So, over time, he began to change and express that he had different interests. If you remember, at the beginning, she was like, we listened to my music. We went to the beach because I loved it. Like all these things where she felt like he was like super into her and like their interests were very aligned. Like they were going out doing things that she thought they were both enjoying. She said, I found out he didn't like dancing. He didn't like beaches. I would say, let's go on a trip to California. No, I hate the beach. Yeah, I hate the way the sand feels in between my toes. I'm not doing that. This pisses me off. This pisses me off. Because what do you mean you hated the beach the whole time? Literally, what are you talking about? Genuinely, what are you talking about? Like you just lied about liking the beach? That's crazy. Because some people hate the beach, but like why'd you lie for years? Why'd you spend years being like, I love the beach? It's awesome. Okay. And she said he was a big African safari guy. He would go to Cameroon, Tanzania, South Africa, Zimbabwe, all over the world to hunt and go on safaris for animals. Eventually, very wealthy people engaged in those hobbies. He sold it to me as well. I'm actually doing this for work to get more clients for my business. Oh, so to be a stockbroker, you have to go kill an elephant. I don't know if he did that, but your job is beach. He's just Sean. Wow, it's just like that Lord song. So his preferred vacation is killing things. Got it. He's like, I can't go to the beach with my family and listen to music. I have to kill a gazelle. You don't understand. It's for my business. He didn't like dancing. He didn't like beaches. He's literally the fun police. Like, is he living in the Footloose town? Is that where he lives? He had way too much time if he was lying about liking me. So yeah, not only is he fucking off constantly to go on these African safaris, and side note, they live in Colorado. It takes like 2 days to get to anywhere in Africa from Colorado, I would imagine. Because it's not like there's a direct flight from Denver. You probably, if I had to guess, fly from Denver to either like London or Paris or Madrid and then take a connecting flight from there. That's what I would assume. But I don't know. I need to collect trophies from across the ocean, babe. What don't you understand? You have to watch the 4 kids and change their diapers. Also, if you see me fidgeting with this and flailing it around, this is a hot glue gun. It's off. I just didn't want you to think I had like a firearm. I probably shouldn't even show it on camera. I feel like it's going to get banned. Let me find something else I can play with. I have a fidget spinner. Oh my God. Okay, so not only is he going to Africa constantly to go kill animals and be a menace and colonize, basically, Mormon coworker DM said, okay, so apparently he was having a bunch of near-death experiences there and saving people's lives constantly. Like he would come back and he'd be like, oh my God, Bill, we fell and I saved Bill. So this is a quote she said, because again, I've never heard anything from him. He had so many stories about saving people's lives or dramatic things. I used to tell him, if I didn't live with you and see your life is true, I would never believe you. What I didn't know was that most of those stories were probably lies. She's so real. I feel bad for her. So they are continuing to grow, build their family, but he's changing. Like I said, he's going to Africa constantly. He's around less and less. He was spending hours at his investment firm. This is one thing I have gotten 2 conflicting stories on. A TV show said one thing and a podcast said another thing. And she was saying both, so I don't know. And they could both be true at different points in time. So one time she said he was working in the basement all the time, and he had an office in the basement, and he would lock the basement door, and no one was supposed to go down there, and that was fine because it's like, he's working, don't bother him while he's working. Another time she said a very similar thing, but she said he had an office above their garage, but then she also said he built the garage, so I think maybe it was originally in the basement, and then he moved to a... So yeah, so if you see a little bit of difference, I think that's why, but not 100% sure. So, when he wasn't working, he was on extravagant solo hunting trips. So life started to revolve around his world, and she said that sometimes that bothered her, but she remained very committed to him because, again, Mormon. She said, for a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you marry forever and you make your choice, and then you love your choice and you figure out how to make it work. I was taught that pretty much the only reason you ever divorce is if it's a case of physical abuse or something beyond that. You marry forever. And she said, it wasn't anything that I would have divorced over. It was more like, oh, I guess I'll make this work, which I can see. So if I sound like I'm really normalizing this, I'm not normalizing it for you and me. I'm normalizing it for the 1990s Mormons in Colorado, that having this rich husband who works constantly and is gone all the time and has making all this money, and you're the stay-at-home mom, like everyone looking in would be like, your life is good and normal and that's fine. Like, oh, what, he doesn't give you enough attention? Like, he's not home? Yeah, he's making money. Like, he's not being explicitly mean to her. He's not being abusive in any way. So I can see why to her and to everyone around her, it was like, yeah, we're golden. Beautiful. I make a point to bother my husband while he's working because I can't have him being secretly creepy. Okay, so especially why I'm kind of like normalizing this, not for me and you, but for the time, is he was still really engaged with their children and kind of their marriage. She said, I felt like we were very connected. We went on dates every weekend together. He would call me when he had downtime at work. Once in the morning and once or twice in the afternoon, he would just call me to check in, see what I was doing, how I was. My son played baseball and they won the championship, so he bought a batting cage and pitching machine and put it in our backyard. We put in a pool, we put in a sport court, so our kids would have great fun and have a place to bring their friends. Apparently, he was like really into sports with his kids and was like very engaged with his children and it seems like relatively attentive to his wife, other than the not helping with the children, aside from having fun with them, and the long solo trips to Africa. So like I'm saying, for the time and for the norm and for this community, he seems like the rock star husband. Like, he's everybody's dream, practically. So even though he has weird hobbies, life is pretty good. She said he was genuinely trying. He got very involved with the kids when they got older. And this is also very common for men to like be really weird around like babies and toddlers, but then like be very involved when the kids are a little bit older. I think that that's just something they need to work on, and honestly, they just need education around. But anyway, so once the kids were older, he started being much more active with his children's lives, leading 50-mile hikes with the Boy Scout troop, chauffeuring their daughters around, joking with them, talking with them, and he made sure all his children had everything they could ever want. So very classic, like, I had a rough childhood. I have all this money. I want my kids to have the best life ever. Seems like he loves being like the fun dad. That's the vibe that I'm getting. And he said he wanted the kids to be very cultured. So they went to museums all the time and started a private art collection in the family. So Rembrandts, which I'm sure I'm saying incorrectly, are very, very expensive. That's a very, very famous artist. Like this is like big money paintings. This is not like your bullshit from Home Goods. Sculptures by Frederick Hart and other fine pieces were all chosen to bring into their lives and enrich their children's education. The batting cages, the private courts, all of it, very expensive. But Andrea was watching the money go up. She said, yeah, I was looking at statements of our accounts. I was seeing the money multiply time after time. So like, what? You're going to be like, no, don't buy a batting cage for our child who will love it. You know what I'm saying? And another thing about Mormonism is like conveying perfection. Like Mormonism is a very perfection-ass religion. So like your life being perfect, they think is like pleasing to God. So like showing other people in your church that your life is perfect, it's like, yeah, me and the Lord are like this. You have to get like me. So at some time during this era, in 2001 specifically, he became a bishop in the Mormon church. That's like a pretty high up ass position. As a bishop, he held a position of deep trust and respect within the community. So this is a leader of the church. So when people say like, oh, I had to go to my bishop, that's like the church leader at the congregation there to advise people on things. So people assumed that a church leader would be honest and honorable. This gave legitimacy to his investment firm, and Mormon clients started coming to him, especially fellow church members, because they're like, you're a bishop, we have this shared spiritual connection, I can trust you. You see where this is going. So it looks like he's really good at his job. Andrea said, I watched our account slowly grow up to $1 million and then $3 million, and then I watched my statement grow to about $10 million. She said she had seen statements of their money. She said that he would always tell her about like trades and things of their money, but he would never ever share any information about anything else within his work. He would just talk about their own personal finances. So I see from her perspective why this makes sense, and the way that she rationalized this that I honestly think is very reasonable. If you're not getting this already, I really like her and really don't think she could have done anything to avoid this. Like, I don't see at any point in time where she made a mistake. I'll be honest. She said that he told her that's other people's money and it's private and I have to like protect my client's information. I would absolutely accept that. And like, I'm marrying someone that doesn't have that job, but used to have a similar job. So if he said that to me, I'd be like, yeah, you shouldn't tell your client's information to people. You know what I mean? So like, that's not weird. She knows what her husband's job is. She knows about their money. She's looking at their bank statements. She knows like account information. She's like, it's not like she was just like, oh, everything's fine, la-di-da, and like didn't know anything about their finances, you know? So she said, these are two stories I heard in my research. She said once early on when he opened up his own brokerage, he was very stressed. She asked what was wrong, and he said that he had an accounting problem. And he was like, oh, I just have this really bad accounting problem. I have to figure out this accounting issue. And then a few days later, he seemed much more relaxed, and he said, oh, I figured out a solution to my accounting problem. Everything's good now. She said she didn't really think anything of it. Because like, yeah, your husband starts a new business, he's stressed about accounting, and then a couple days later figured it out. That's not that weird. And then another, in hindsight, weird thing, he left his laptop open on the table. She said she used it to check her email, and then he walked in, saw her on the laptop, and freaked the fuck out. And she was like, why are you freaking the fuck out? I'm checking my own email. I didn't even do anything. Like, we're a married couple, and I can't borrow your computer. You're crazy. And apparently he apologized and was like, I shouldn't have spoken to you that way. I'm sorry. And so, ideal? No. Worth bringing up again? Not really. If it was like a genuine apology and he was like, I'm sorry, it was just a gut reaction, I didn't mean it that way. Like, things happen when you're married. I get it. Like I said, I feel for her. So this says speaker 2, speaker 1, because it was on a podcast and I just didn't know how to split it up in a better way. So this is another red flag. This is not financial, but it's very confusing to me. Why are you using my fraud machine? Exactly, because she's like, it's my husband's laptop and I'm logged into my email. Like, it's not even your email. So she's talking about the trips to Africa. This one was to Ethiopia. She said, these trips could be dangerous. One time when he returned from a safari in Ethiopia, Sean was acting strange. He was keeping distance and I said, why? And he said, I've got to go to the doctor. He was worried that he could have contracted something. He told Andrea a wild story. We were climbing a mountain and one of the people in the party flipped and he was going to fall off a cliff. So I reached down and I grabbed him and saved his life. But he and I both got cut up in the process, so I need to go get tested to make sure I'm okay. And thankfully he was negative for everything, because like if you have like blood crossed with someone, if they have any type of disease, you can get it. Like, blood to blood contact is like the worst way to spread disease. And by worst, I mean like any disease can spread so quickly with blood to blood contact. So anytime you have blood to blood contact with anyone, you should go get tested for everything you can be tested for. Even if it's someone you know, even if they're like, I don't have anything going on. Some people have things, they don't know that they have it. So there's just a little first aid tip. You should always go get tested so like if I had massive cuts and we were in a car accident together and I'm bandaging you up and I have cuts and your blood is getting in my cuts and my blood is getting in your cuts, that's when we need to all go get tested. So even though the story was very far-fetched, Andrea believed him. I do not like this man. So what was really going down in Africa? It's giving not just hunting. That's what I want to know. Or maybe he cheated on her and lied. That's what, so like one thing that upsets me is we never get any resolution to that. If anyone has found it that I haven't, please let me know. But that never ever comes up again. What was going on in Africa, in Ethiopia, on this trip? What were you doing? So, back to his success. I had watched our account grow, like we said, up to $10 million. And this was in the early 2000s. So in today, that would be closer to 18 million. So she invested her own inheritance with his firm. Because remember, she's super rich. By this point, her parents have passed. So she's inherited a large amount of money. So she had everything that she had saved and everything she got from her parents and put it into his investment firm. And she said she was getting monthly financial statements for it. So, like, in hindsight, she should not have done this, but could you say if you were in her position, you wouldn't? Can you say if your husband was a wildly successful investment guy, you wouldn't have him manage your money? And you're getting monthly financial statements showing that it's growing? You're really going to tell me, like, in hindsight, it was a mistake. But, and keep in mind, early 2000s, so it's not as much like you can log in and see everything super easily. And again, it's his investment firm. So it's not like, oh, I keep my money with like Major American Bank and my husband makes the trades, but I log into Major American Bank. Like, it's his investment firm. So it's like, you know, a lot of control on his part. In a TikTok, she said he did admit to cheating on her, but she didn't say anything about who those people were afar. Thank you. I was hoping one of you had seen her TikToks. I watched a bunch of them, but I didn't have time to watch all of them. I didn't realize it was a series till yesterday. It's 1000% giving unprotected sex with sex workers. Yeah, I can see that. I'm glad someone got an update on that because it really bothered me that I couldn't find one online. Okay, so I'm stressed. Like, these things are not good. They're really just not. And she said, I'm very conservative financially. So my first goal was that I wanted our home paid off. And I think it was my 40th birthday. He gave me the deed to our house and our house was paid off. So, spoiler alert, that ended up not being the case. But I just included this to show, I think like it's really easy to be like, oh, she's probably one of those women that didn't know anything about her own finances. And she's just not. She's literally just not. Seems like she was regularly checking what was going on with her finances and had access to it. So not a red flag if everything looks good. Exactly. Like, it's just, I think, this is what I think. I think it's our human instinct to want to blame her to bring us comfort of like, this could never happen to me. Because so many times when we hear about women in financial ruin because of their husbands, it's like it could have been avoided. And I really just don't think this one could have. Like, she literally did everything you're supposed to do. Like, gave input about the house, was checking every account, like had things in her own name because her accounts were in her name. He was managing it at his investment firm, but it wasn't her name. That's not the truth, Ellen. So she said he ended up building a building behind our home that was called his shop. It was actually bigger than our home. His work office was in the top level. So remember how before I was saying he was in the basement? I think he moved somewhere around this time. The bottom was just cars and trophies. He had an Aston Martin, Porsches, Ferrari, Mercedes, sedans, BMWs, you name it. He spent pretty much all his time in his shop working on business or taking care of his cars. He would go out to his office from probably 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., come in, have dinner, and then he'd be like, oh, I'm going out to my shop to do this, and then he'd come in at 10 at night. So he lives out there. He literally lives out there. They've been married for about 20 years at this point, and for 2 decades, he had prioritized work over everything else and showed little interest in adjusting that. And she kind of accepted that this was going to be her life. Like, she was like, I wish he would spend more time with family, but, like, this is the man that I married. I'm a Mormon. I'll see him when his schedule allows, I guess. Because like I said, compared to so many of her peers, not that bad. Not that bad. She said, I was kind of raised If you look for the good in others, you will find it. If you're looking for bad things and looking to tear people down to hate them, you'll find reasons for that too. He was gone a lot of the time. That's such a Mormon-ass thing to say. He was gone a lot of the time, but when he was home, he would be there for dinner and do other things with us. Now, I don't think any life is completely perfect, but it was a good life. Yes, she put her inheritance money into his broker company. So, it's 2009. It's St. Patrick's Day. She did the whole like stay-at-home mom type, green pancakes, matching outfits, family photos, all that. She said she did that every year because they had Irish in their family. She said, I took fun photos of them dressed in their St. Patrick's Day attire. What I didn't know at the time is those would be the last Merriman family photos I would ever take. Next day, shit hits the fan. We've been here for 50 minutes. Shit's just now hitting the fan. Sorry about that. So, March 18th, unexpectedly, I was headed out on some errands. I dropped my youngest off at daycare to have a babysitter while I got some things done, and Sean called me as I was driving down the highway, and he said, what are you doing? I said, why? Do you need something? And he said, well, actually, I was hoping to spend some time with you this morning. And I said, oh, well, I can turn around. I'll come get you, and you can do my errands with me. And he said, no, I need you to come home. Very strange. Literally random weekday. And like normally, like we said, he's at work like all day, every single day. So she went home and he was waiting for her in the kitchen. Misredacted. I'm sorry the catastrophe didn't start much sooner. And she sat down and he said, I've been running Market Street Advisors for the past 16 years, but I need you to know that every day when I got up and left and went to work and was gone all day, I was actually running a Ponzi scheme. That was his opening. That's how he opened the conversation. Really couldn't have said it more clearly. He said, I was gone every day, all day, and I was running a Ponzi scheme for 16 years during that time. Isn't that crazy? Stardust Mosaic, thank you for subscribing for 22 months. A Ponzi scheme is basically doing fraud, where it's like, I take one client's money to pay the other one because I'm not actually making any of the money. He said, let's get right to the point. Late 2000s was prime time for white collar crime. Yeah, so imagine that being the intro. I don't know how she didn't commit a crime right then and there, because what do you mean? What do you mean we've been married for 20 years and for 16 of them, you've been running a criminal fraud organization? He said it with a straight face and no remorse, I'm sure. With those fuck-ass glasses, like... He was probably wearing like a golf shirt and like cargo shorts too. My first thought was fist fight him now. So what exactly was this motherfucker doing? Because like a couple people asked, Ponzi scheme question mark, what is this? 2009, the market was falling apart. Yeah, because he turned himself in. I guess that's why, because he realized he couldn't keep it going. So he explained that when he first started the firm, it was legitimate. So those great deals he had at the beginning, I believe those were real. Everything I found has said those first couple years of success were legitimate. But when he started his own firm, one of his investments went south. And instead of just being accountable and going to his clients like, hey, this investment was bad, we lost some money, sorry about that, he omitted a $5,000 loss from his statement. So $5,000 is a lot of money, but when you are running an investment firm, losing $5,000 is nothing. That is literally like such a fucking normal day. If you're managing large amounts of money and you are running an investment firm, losing $5,000 on an investment happens. That's literally what investment is. It's just a risk of things. This is where I think like the Mormon perfectionism comes in. I think because he was so successful in his early years and hadn't had any losses, this probably hit him like a Mack truck and he just didn't know how to deal with it. So he just hit it like religions do. Sweep under the rug. Bad? We don't talk about that. So he was sure he could make it up with another trade because he was like, let me not put the loss on the statement. So he made a fraudulent statement that did not show that loss. And he was like, I'll make up the money later. He was like, I'll do another trade and I'll make 10 grand and I'll just say it was 5 and it'll balance out. That's his plan. But he never did. So it just keeps going downhill from here. And from this point on, he's fudging the books, selling people on his big wins, using money from new investors to pay the old ones. So there's got to be money in the account. People are going to want to pull it out. So he would be like, let me go get a new client, use their money to give here. It's giving gambling debt. It's giving gambling debt. What's that movie with Julia Fox, Uncut Gems? It kind of reminds me of that guy in the movie, Adam Sandler's character. If you've ever seen that movie, it's a really good movie. She's incredible in it. So there were no $1 million trades. There were no miracle investments. He's literally just doing fraud. So when you're lying about the numbers, you might as well make yourself look really good. So that's what he did. So he was a complete fraud. He had lost millions of dollars. All of the financial documents that Andrea had ever seen were fake. So he was giving his wife fake financial documents of her accounts. That's like, who can fucking predict that? Like, you don't think to ask that. Like, now I will. But isn't that crazy? Instead of serving him for white collar crime, I'd be serving for second degree crime. So he was a complete fraud. He had lost millions of dollars. Some of his clients lost everything that they had. And not only did he lose all of his clients' money, he lost all of their money too. So all of the inheritance from her parents, all of the kids' college funds, everything was gone. And again, this is 2009, so the market is tanking. So he probably is at a point now where he cannot acquire new clients. So that's why he turned himself in, I assume. You can't spend your whole marriage waiting for the other shoe to drop. Sorry, I keep like not being able to breathe. I'm like a pug dog, genuinely. Ugh, I don't even have any tissues. Oh well. Me as Andrea, you get a 10-second head start. So, then he said, yesterday, in the company of my attorney, I turned myself in to the U.S. Marshals, to representatives of the federal government, and I will be going to prison. Him just saying it so matter of fact is like scary. Going from 5K to millions is impressive though. That's what I mean. He's clearly very charismatic because he kept getting new clients. Was constantly getting new clients, some of them from church. So like it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I think when the market crashed, no one has anything to invest. So he was like, oh, now I gotta pay these guys. So, yeah, this is a lot. I'm stressed. So, this is her talking. When he said the word prison, I about died. My mind was just swirling. When he said that, I thought, this cannot be real. I was trying to find the positive like I'd been raised to do, and I said, at least the house is paid off. And he said, no, you don't understand. The house is gone. The cars are gone. Everything's gone. Because he lied about the house being paid off. He literally makes fraudulent documents for a living. So, and he probably had to take that money to cover some bullshit at work. She said, I just kind of felt like I was witnessing the apocalypse. I remember apologizing, saying, I'm so sorry, but I have to get out of here. I got up and I ran out. I got in my car. I took off up my driveway and I started driving out of my neighborhood. Uncontrollably, tears were just streaming out of my eyes. I think that running out of your house and driving away is the most peaceful reaction anyone could have to this. He was consistently dedicated to losing money for 16 years. Aw, how sweet. He turned himself in on St. Patrick's Day, but waited until his wife's holiday was over to announce how much he destroyed her life. She's so calm. Toxic positivity even in this moment. Like, it's so Mormon. It's so Mormon. So she said, she's literally so strong. She said, I felt like everything had been destroyed. Everything was a humiliation to me as well. Sorry, I told you it's a transcript. It's a little off. Deeply sad and devastated. My biggest wish and desire would have been to just walk to the edge of the horizon and drop off the face of the earth. But I couldn't because I had 4 kids relying on me. I was their only resource. Like, as if this isn't bad enough. Now you have to get a job? God, that's even worse. So when I went back to the house, I told him that he was going to be the one to tell the kids. Real. So that night, we gathered our family together. He was in a chair in the corner of the room. I was on the couch across the room from him, and he told the kids, I've done something wrong. I've made a little mistake. And from across the side of the room, I'm just furious, shaking my head. You've committed a crime. You've made huge mistakes over and over every day, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. This is not one little mistake, because it's literally 16 years. Literally 16 years. I was standing there with 4 kids, aged 3 to 16. God, they're going to be in college in 5 minutes, and then you also have a 3-year-old. This is hell. Tears streaming down their face, looking at me for answers and strength. Before I could even say anything, my little 3rd grader said, "Does this mean you're going to divorce Dad?" And she said, not in the moment, but she said in her head, that was the first time that she even thought of that. And she went, yep, we're going to have to do that. I was so humiliated to be married to a criminal, humiliated at what he had done, humiliated to know I would be getting divorced. I was raised that divorce is not what you do. Knowing that I had been married in a temple forever added a layer of difficulty, a layer of guilt, and a layer of regret. Girl, this means I'm going to kill Dad. Say goodbye. Okay. So she's in hell. This is hell. You can't convince me this is not hell. He continued to stay in the home and come to family dinner because obviously they had to build a case against him, even though he turned himself in. That doesn't happen overnight. So she said, I even remember cooking dinner for my kids saying, "Would you like to call your dad and let him know dinner's ready?" I'm appalled that I'm doing this for this man who's done this, but it was for my kids. I was trying to be kind, set an example of divorce, of not changing who you are just because you've been betrayed. You choose the right. You are kind. You are good to people no matter what. She is literally our strongest soldier. Get out of my house. Andrea, don't cook us food. Her spooky Mormon hell dream came true. This is horrible. I hate it here. I hate it here. I hate it here. I can't believe he also cheated on her. I'm glad one of y'all told me that. Do you know when he cheated? Was it the whole time? Let me know if you guys know. This is literally a nightmare. I'm glad that y'all like the memes. That's what I mean when I say making it myself, it just hits different. It just really does. Please. I'm astronomically stressed for Andrea. No, I'm literally shaking. Andrea, things are not okay. Things are not okay. Oh, I can't breathe. Okay, so like I said, most of that was from her interviews from television and podcast. Now we're going to get to the government, the news reports, the SEC, the SEC, not Southeastern Conference, Securities and Exchange Commission. That's who regulates people like this. All that official stuff. And then we will get back to her. No, we're not going to ever stray away from her. She is the main character. But some of this is not going to be in her voice anymore. So this was the first thing I could find that was put publicly. This was April 7th, 2009. So again, he turned himself in around St. Patrick's Day. So I don't know if this is within a couple weeks or if it was a full year. I think it had to have been a couple weeks, but was it a year? What did she say about building a case? They needed time to build a case. So I don't know how long it was that they were in that scenario, fucking living in the house together. So this is what the SEC put out on April 7th, 2009. It says, we should have zoomed Andrea in. I thought about it. She followed me back on TikTok today, and I actually was like, should I delay this and do it later to interview her? But I was like, no, let me just do it, and then I can always come back to this if she ever wants to talk, because she also is super mega famous right now because she's going viral about this on TikTok. So I was like, she's busy. I can't ask 5 hours notice. You know what I'm saying? I just felt like that was weird. I guess I could have. Guest star in a stream would be so great. That's the other thing is technologically, I know I can figure out how to do that, but I didn't want to be figuring it out with her and waste her time if something went wrong. So I was just it's too fast to throw that together, but it's not off the table. Looks like a few weeks because it was March 2009. Oh yeah, you're right. So it was just a few weeks. Thank God for her. So The SEC brings fraud charges and requests emergency relief against a Colorado advisor for conducting a multi-million-dollar Ponzi scheme. The Securities and Exchange Commission has charged Sean Merriman of Raleigh, Colorado, and his firm, Market Street Advisors, for conducting a multi-million-dollar Ponzi scheme through the sale of interest in at least 4 investment funds. The SEC was also charged that the funds that issued the securities. That's like finance stuff I don't understand. The commission alleges that Merriman raised at least $17 to $20 million from 38 investors in states like Colorado, Minnesota, and Utah. According to the commission's complaint filed April 7, 2009, in a federal district court in Denver, Colorado, Merriman told investors that he would invest their funds into stocks and options, and he reported impressive and consistent annual returns to investors. Merriman repeatedly deceived investors, many of whom considered him a personal friend, by sending them fictitious amount statements showing annual returns of 7 to 20%. Instead, Merriman did not trade stocks and options after his first year. So for 15 years, he was not actually trading. He was just scamming. Where was I? During which he suffered trading losses, and he used millions of dollars in investment funds to support his lavish lifestyle and pay out withdrawals by other investors. He also offered rebates to existing investors to entice them to invest additional money with him. Contrary to his representations to investors, the SEC alleges that Merriman used investor funds to repay other investors and for his own personal purchases of classic cars, motorcycles, motorhomes, a cabin in Idaho, fine art collections, including works by Rembrandt that are worth millions of dollars. The complaint alleges that the defendants violated blah, 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 blah. In addition to seeking emergency relief, including an asset freeze, the commission seeks disgorgement of the defendants' ill-gotten gains, plus prejudgment, interest, financial penalties, and the permanent injunctions, barring future violations of the anti-fraud provisions of federal security laws. So then why is he going to Africa? So, yeah, that was like very legal jargony, but basically that's what he was doing. So, like we said, not making any trades at all, literally just doing fraud for years and years and years. So, back to Andrea. We will go back to government stuff soon. So after a couple weeks of purgatory, because like we said, all this was in 2009. Thank you for reminding me of that. She gets a call from the U.S. Marshals shortly after this happened and the actual charges were filed. And they say, hey, we need to come to your house and seize your family assets. And she goes, okay, come on this day. So they pull up over the hill. She says it was a caravan of dark vehicles with tinted windows, and everyone starts getting out. They are all U.S. Marshals or FBI. They have the sunglasses, the weapons, all of that. She said the only difference is that she knew they were coming, and they rang the doorbell, and she let them in. So it was nice of them to, I guess, give her a heads up. That was cool. I drove through an FLDS town, Colorado City, where you Zillowed houses. My boyfriend wouldn't stop because the town was too sketchy. One thing about the Mormons, I'm keeping an eye on them. I need to go out there, see what they're up to. Reed cheating. She talked about the cheating in one of her earlier TikToks, like around her 7th to 13th video. He never gave her an exact number, but it was honestly a very touching story. She was horrified that she could have STDs and breaking down about her fear and everything else at the doctor's office. And the doctor said he'd personally take care of her children if she couldn't. She's such a great storyteller, and I highly recommend her TikToks. Yes, she's doing like a 50-part series, and I think she's on part 44, and she releases one every day. At the end of this, I put her TikTok, so I'll like share it with everyone that wants to see it. So this is another article that came out a day after the first one that's talking about this whole thing, like with the assets being taken and all of that. So I'm just going to kind of skim this because it's very similar to the other one that I read, which says, according to the SEC lawsuit, he started multiple funds. He initially traded some securities, but then stopped and then started using investor money to pay all withdrawals and bills. Who the fuck did I invest with? So his personal expenses include 157 paintings, a 1930 Lincoln. Defense attorney Patrick Ridley said Merriman contacted federal prosecutors and gave them a breakdown of his business operation for the last 15 years, and he has personally contacted each of his clients to whom he made full disclosure of his actions and apologized. So this was 38 investors, so 38 victims. It was somewhere between $17 to $20 million. And the victims were many people that viewed him as a friend, and they are seeking an audit to pinpoint exact numbers and total losses. So he had promised, like we said, annual returns as high as 20%, but he just never could make that happen. So this is from the next day. This is from the Department of Justice. Department of Justice seizing assets as a part of $1 million Ponzi scheme. So this is when she was talking about the cars came and took all their stuff. You can see this is happening very rapidly across a couple of days. U.S. Marshals. So the first article I showed you from the 7th was the U.S. Marshals being like, we are requesting this from the government. And then this is the next day. The government's like, you got it. U.S. Marshals are actively seizing art, homes, vehicles, sports memorabilia, and bank accounts from Sean Merriman. The scheme, again, $17 to $20 million. This is a civil asset forfeiture from the complaint from last week. The case is being investigated by the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, and he is cooperating with investigators because I think a lot of it was through the mail as well. Men will really blow up their whole life instead of admitting they made a bad call. And I think Mormonism is a part of that. So according to the complaint, like we said, he promised all this money. He lost $400,000 and then instead of reporting that loss, started a second company telling he would have a more conservative approach. Most of them came by word of mouth. So like it's really just slightly different versions of the same thing. He admitted that he never made any investments, but instead used the money to pay himself and pay other investors that wanted to withdraw money, had all these false investments, all these false returns for years and years and years. All of their income since 1994 was generated by his fraudulent scheme. And this was from 94 to 2009. And yeah, literally just sucks super bad. I'm really channeling Myra Rose and her wigs industry. I wonder if this was the inspiration for the pilot episode of Schitt's Creek. What is the pilot episode of Schitt's Creek? Did they do fraud or no? Their business partner did, right? I don't remember. I saw it a long time ago. So this is a list of the items that the U.S. Marshals seized. 150 pieces of old Masters fine art, 170 pieces of contemporary art, 43 pieces of framed art, 4 bronze busts, one acrylic sculpture, their residence, so their home, their house in Colorado, one other property, that cabin in Idaho, numerous conveyances, vehicles, cars, motorcycles, a boat, trailers, a John Deere Bobcat, 8 E-Trade security accounts, sports memorabilia, because I guess he had his own shit in E-Trade. He said, let me put my money somewhere safe. Like they weren't going to take that. Sports memorabilia, firearms, taxidermy from the things that he shot, other personal property including exercise equipment, arcade games, tools, hunting paraphernalia, safes, and here it is, the pitching machine. Oh, we thought he was such a good dad. Well, not you and I, but everybody else. So this is a footnote on the article that I don't really understand, if anyone wants to explain this. The complaint filed in this case is civil. To prevail, the government needs to prove their complaint by a preponderance of the evidence. The case is being handled by U.S. Assistant Attorneys Tonya Andrews and James Russell of the Asset Forfeiture Unit, as well as Assistant U.S. Attorney Tim Neff of the Economic Crimes Section. I don't really know what that means. It seems very legal. No, because he met a rich woman, married her in 2 months, and pretended to work for less than a year, stole millions of dollars. What kind of lazy white people shit is that? Possibly chat of the night. Strong contender. Only contender so far. That's very funny. We thought he was such a good... No, he didn't. Like, he couldn't even take his wife and his inheritance and invest it safely in index funds or something. She literally would have been better off just having her inheritance in cash in a mattress. Like, oh God, she could have literally just taken it to any major bank and been like, conservatively manage this, and someone would have done it for her. Oh, sorry. So, back to Andrea. She said, I had the thought you should hide some of your jewelry. Because obviously she had nice fucking jewelry. So when the people came to take all their stuff, she was like, I should hide some of this shit. And then she said, no, that would be stealing. No, you don't know where you're going to live, how you're going to keep your kids alive. You don't have a job. Your parents are dead. If you could just end up with something, you've had something to sell to start a life. And I went back and forth in my mind a couple of times. Nope, I'm not going to abandon my integrity just because the person I'm married to has, and I left it. I left all my jewelry in the box because I am not compromising my ethics. She's so good. Like, she did not deserve this so much. Like, she did not deserve any of this. BTW, the reason he apologized to his clients was trying to improve his odds for a lenient sentence, I assumed. It wasn't out of context and actually made it way worse for Andrea since all the clients started going after her. Ah! Why do Mormons hate women? What did we do to them? I don't understand. But, like, for her to be in that moment and be like, because literally a diamond necklace, you probably get like 10 grand for it. That could, like, at this time, pay your rent for a year and, like, really get you a better start. How the fuck is a Mormon a woman with a moral compass? She's literally such a good person. Such a good person. So somehow it gets worse. She said, several of my neighbors at the house next door were up on the deck drinking and barbecuing, rejoicing in the downfall of my family and the asset seizure. Because again, he was in, like, managing their community's money, their church friends, their neighbors, their friends from their kids' sports. So her whole community fucking hates her now. And like you said, they turned against her because everyone thought she knew something. They were like, you had to have known. Your husband was running a scheme for 15 years. You had to have known. Like, oh my God. Meanwhile, Erica on Housewives was like, pry this ring from my cold, dead body. And I can't say I would be different. I can't say that I would be different. And I think it's brave of me to say that. I think a lot of people would sit up here and lie and be like, I would never do that. And I'm not going to lie to you because I don't know what I would do. But I have a feeling it would be closer to Erica's reaction than Andrea's. I think I do know that about myself. I'd have to finally go scorched earth with an audience of neighbors. He robbed her of any kind of relief. She literally cannot get a fucking moment of peace at all. The horrors persist, but so does Andrea. She said one time during this debacle in the asset stuff, because like we said, they were in the house for a couple weeks when this was going on. She said she was out front with her 3-year-old. He was playing outside and she heard ka-chink, ka-chink and turned around and one of her neighbors had like a paparazzi lens and was photographing her and her son. She said one of the victims, who was also a neighbor, who had probably lost all of his money, came up to the steps of her front porch with a loaded gun and then came to his senses and turned around and walked away and went home. Isn't that insane? The slide headers are spectacular tonight. I told y'all, like, when I do it myself, it just hits different. And I just need to start doing these myself again. Isn't this crazy? I feel so fucking bad for her. So, it's July 13th. Poor Andrea, how did she survive this? Like, oh my God, I'm sunburned. Wow. I would simply be everyone's problem. Like, I would have fallen off the face of the planet at this point. I feel her, though. She can only control herself, and it probably feels good to not let this consume her integrity or her values. I could see that, like, exerting control where you can and being like, no, this is not going to define my life. Like, that could be a comfort, is like, no, I'm going to be righteous in this. So she said she drove to the courthouse with him to finalize the divorce. Side note, one time I said this as a small child, and I still think it's true. I think it's a red flag in a heterosexual couple when the woman drives the car. Because why are you letting her do that? Be a man. Drive the car. I remember when I was like 7 or 8, my family went to church. We went to Unitarian church, so like take it with a grain of salt. But a couple at our church was getting divorced, and my parents were like, oh, so-and-so are getting divorced. And I said, oh, yeah, I always thought it was weird how she always drives the car. And my parents were like, what? And I was like, whenever their family comes to church, she's always driving, and he's always in the front seat. And my parents were like, interesting. So, little tiny me knew it. Still know it now. And when I actually met my fiance, I like told him, because one time I dated a guy and I would have to like drive him everywhere and he didn't have a car and it was literally hell on earth. And when I met my fiance, I told him, I was like, oh, just by the way, I don't drive. And he was like, you have a car, you drive to work every day. And I was like, yeah. I don't drive with you. I don't drive when you're in the car. And to this point, we've been together for years now. The only time I drove him is when one time he stepped on a piece of glass and we went to urgent care. I think that's it. when the woman drives the van. Literally, I was just like, red flag, red flag. So she drove to the courthouse with him to finalize the divorce. She said, I had to write my own divorce because I couldn't afford an attorney. So she herself wrote the divorce. And she said she wrote that he was responsible for his debts and I was responsible for mine. And credit card companies do not have to abide by that, but they did not come after her because she said she thinks they saw the situation and realized she didn't have anything. And I think the reason they were able to get divorced so quickly, because normally divorce takes a while, but what are the things that take a long time in a divorce? Dividing assets and agreeing on custody of children. You're going to prison, so custody is taken care of. Dividing assets, we don't have any. You lost everything. So go ahead and sign right here. Like, I can see why their divorce was quicker than most people's. I also don't really think he was in the position to be like, no. So I think she wrote it up and he was probably like, yeah. And then a judge was like, yep, we have bigger fish to fry. Let's go ahead and get y'all divorced. I've also heard that can happen in like criminal things as well. Wait, I skipped a thing. So she said, we came home, I packed my car with my 2 dogs and my kids, and I moved that day. I didn't say goodbye to anything. I did not look back as I drove away. I did not look in the rear view mirror the entire way out of Denver. She's so strong. So she and her kids moved in with her brother in Utah, and a friend connected her with a job in marketing. So she is finding a job. She's living with her brother. She said she was worried about having money for the grocery store, and that was the first time in her life she had ever experienced anything like that. And she said that's what she remembered the most. That was the most stressful. She said, for years, I would have a knot in my stomach every time I drove to the grocery store thinking, oh my gosh, I have to buy this food, but it's so much, I just don't have the money. I mean, we had to adjust. So let this be a lesson. This is why you finish your degree, okay? Because I'm sure she could have dropped out. She was married. She came from a wealthy family. Like, I'm sure she could have dropped out. I'm sure a lot of her peers would have dropped out. But do you think that her friend could have found her a salary-paying job in marketing if she did not have her degree in public relations? Probably not. She probably still could have found a job through a friend, but it would not have been a decent salaried job. Because I'm confident she had an entry-level marketing job, which is like not great, but much better than like retail or waitressing or something like that. You can at least have benefits, have a consistent schedule. Like, she came in a much better position because she had her college degree and had work experience, because it's not like she dropped out and then had a baby 5 minutes later, or graduated and had a baby 5 minutes later. She was working for years. Remember, she did PR for a government agency. It's so important to have a resume. Let me tell you that much. I'm so lucky to not have to stress about groceries like that. I know it's a blessing. So, back to Sean. Where's that motherfucker going? Andrea left, you're divorced, house is gone, stuff is gone. Now what? Now what? And not just that, but what if your husband dies or is disabled or any type of catastrophe event? Exactly. You never know what life is going to hit you with. For example, I could never breathe. So September 15th, 2010, a little over a year later, he is sentenced to federal prison for mail fraud. Womp womp. So this is how I figured out his age. Sean Merriman, age 47, is sentenced to 151 months over 12 years in federal prison for a mail fraud Ponzi scheme that defrauded 67 investors. So after the investigation went on, it was 67, not 38. He is also ordered to pay over $20 million in restitution. So as a part of today's sentence, he was ordered to forfeit to the United States interest all property, blah, 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 blah. A money judgment was entered, blah, 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 blah. You get it. He's in a lot of trouble. Things are not good. So on April 8th, 2009, they, like we said, took all of his assets. He pled guilty before a judge December 2nd, 2009. He was charged August 2009 and was sentenced September 2010. So they got divorced before his trial and all that. So I don't know where the fuck he was staying or that. I really don't care. According to the information, as well as the stipulated facts contained in the plea agreement, he devised this fraud scheme. We kind of already know this, so I'm going to move past this. This is kind of the same information. So the U.S. attorney said, our goal is to now obtain as much money as possible from the liquidation of Mr. Merriman's assets so as to return as much money as possible to the victims of his crime. So they did start auctioning off his stuff. This is, we already read this list, the stuff that they took from their home that they're now auctioning off. The classic cars, the U.S. Marshal Service was helping because that's who he reported it to initially. And this was a part of Barack Obama's Financial Fraud Enforcement Task Force. 12 years. 12 years in prison. 12 years. So shout out to the Obama Task Force for catching this guy. So this is some same shit from a news outlet. So this was from the actual government report about it on the Department of Justice, and then this is the news reporting on basically the same thing. So one of the victims was his own mother. He defrauded his own mother. Isn't that horrific? So he pleaded guilty. It was over 60 investors, 12 and a half years in prison. The attorney wanted a sentence of just under 6 years, but the judge rejected it and rejected a key government claim that Merriman was not only a fund manager, but an investment advisor, thus deserved more time behind bars. So they gave him a harsher prison sentence because he betrayed family, friends, and church members, and they felt that there was a high risk that he would reoffend. That's why he got the higher sentence, not because of the investment advisor. So I guess the prosecutors were like, send him to jail for longer because he was also an advisor. And the judge was like, I don't give a fuck about the advisor part. I give a fuck that he fucked over his family, friends, and church members, and he probably will do that shit again. So this is where they said this gets into the confusion of names and titles and the level of liability associated with each. So apparently there's some legal discrepancies between these two titles, and one is worse than another, but the judge basically said, I don't care about any of that. I care about he fucked over friends and family in the church, so I'm going maximum sentence. I don't really care what your email signature said, which I think is really real. So if you're doing it under the investment label, you're better protected. And apparently he was under I don't even know. It's kind of dumb. So this is the auction of his shit. Let me see if I want to look at this. Yeah, all the photos I've taken down. It's really just a list now. It says photos, but they're lying, I believe. Yeah, it says there's photos, but they're lying. I don't know if it's because it's an old article that they're down, but there allegedly were photos at one point. But you get it. I'm sure you understand the vibes. Scheme booty photos, exactly. But there's no photos. So what's Andrea? What's Andrea up to? What's Andrea up to? What's going on there? Because things are not looking good for Sean. This is a report about her in 2011. The title of it was Family Rebuilds Finds Happiness After Father Imprisoned. We'll talk about, is he out now? So 2 years ago, you would have thought she had everything. She was living a lie, blah, blah, blah. I thought I was not just living my nightmare, but a nightmare version of a Hollywood movie. Suddenly, Colorado became a hostile place. Sean's victims, neighbors, and even friends directed anger at Andrea and the kids. So when she found a job in Utah, they moved and started over. No matter what you've lost, you still have a lot left. You just have to look at what you're left with and use it to rebuild. The money is gone, but they say it doesn't matter. It doesn't cost any money to be happy, Andrea said. She's incredible. I literally would become the most miserable bitch ever. Everyone that came across me would hate me. The children are amazingly resilient. All 4 kids are excelling at school. Hardships come and you just need to move on because life goes on, said their 11-year-old Matt. Their oldest just graduated from high school and was named his school's most inspirational athlete. Our world fell apart. We got through that, so I know I can get through anything else life throws at me. These children and her are incredible people. If your world gets destroyed, build a new one and build it better, Andrea said. It might not be the same world, might not be as big of a world, but you can still build a world and create a life that's just as good, if not better than the old one you lost. She divorced Sean. She has no contact with him, but his children do talk on the phone with him and write back and forth with him. They all say they have forgiven him and they're moving on. This is what Andrea said in a different interview. This is a podcast that came out much later. She said, I was ridden with guilt that I had enjoyed a nice life at the expense of others. I remember Sean said to me before we parted ways, well, at least she got some good trips out of it. And I just looked at him and I went, I hate every trip I went on. I hate every photo. I hate every memory. There was all kinds of guilt that I'd brought him into the lives of my friends and family that got shafted by him. Cause like her sister had her investments with him, like all their friends, like their kids' friends' parents, like their whole community. It's horrible. Guilt that I had chosen him to be the father of my children. And she got into like how she really leaned into the church and they were so helpful to her. And then like her new bishop really guided her through this and helped her release all of her guilt and all that. And I could have included that, but I don't really like the Mormon church. So I get that it was very helpful to her. And I will never really judge someone for turning to religion in a time of personal crisis, especially if they were raised in religion. I think that's why religion is so powerful, because it creates community and because humans need community. And that's why I think some bad people use religion to exploit people, because they're really using our natural human desire, where we have a desire for community, a fear of the unknown, and we want to believe that something out there is protecting us. So I think it's really gross that people exploit that. And I'm not going to judge someone for wanting those things. So I don't judge her for leaning into the church, especially because she became so like, I have to do the right thing. Like, I think that was a good thing. And I'm really happy that she had a positive experience with her church. Like, I'm genuinely happy for her in that. So here's some other quotes from her and some from that podcast. I had a couple friends who had gotten divorced who had not gotten past it. They were very, very hateful towards their former spouse, and I saw how it was impacting kids and destroying their family. So one thing I knew was, we are going to forgive. Not for him, but for us, so that our hate doesn't destroy us. And my kids have turned out to be everything I could have ever hoped for. Hardworking, educated, they all help each other, they all have skills, they're kind, good people, couldn't ask for anything more. I can honestly say I'm super happy today. I'm a homeowner. That is an incredible accomplishment that she became a homeowner again. I have a great career that's been so memorable. I've gotten to travel. I've done many things that I've dreamed of. I've actually even remarried, if you can believe it or not. Someone who is everything I thought I was getting but didn't get the first time and more. He's even tall and handsome. And here's the kicker. After they got married, her husband started a new career as a fraud investigator, busting Ponzi schemes. I'm so obsessed with her. She's so sweet. She's so positive, like genuinely an icon. Picture on the left is her with her children, and then the one on the right is a little more recent. That is her son's wedding. So absolutely, absolutely beautiful family. Her husband is so hot for that. Like, she forgave and moved on, and her husband was like, and I will get vengeance in your name. And that's the ultimate male sexiness trait. All these men are like, oh, I have to do fraud to buy a pitching machine for my son. No, you need to defend our honor. That's what gets women going. She has a big series about it on TikTok that's actually going viral right now. I saw one of her videos a couple weeks ago because the Mormon madoff was on my list. I had heard about this, but I didn't really know anything about it, and it was on my list. And then I saw her TikTok, and I was like, what an incredible person. Let me do that this week. And I didn't realize the TikTok I saw was the first of a series. So I planned this maybe like 2 weeks ago and then started working on it and then saw that she had the series. And like I said, I wish I had planned further ahead and I could have worked with her and done this later, but it just came together the way it did, which I think it still turned out really good. So she's turning to TikTok. She was recently featured in People magazine. Her first video got 10 million views. One of them was me, detailing the first 24 hours where she talks about how she came in the kitchen and he told her. She has 70,000 followers, and she says she always knew she wanted to do something with her story. And she was talking to a group of 20-somethings when they suggested she start a TikTok account. I was Googling her. She's had a very successful career. She does public speaking. She does events. She is on I think on an advisor board at BYU where they would host like roundtables with students and talk about their careers and stuff. Like, it just seems like she's an incredible person and very, very smart. She said, when it happened to me, I felt like I was alone in the world and there was no one who lived my experience. I started my blog in 2010 to help at least one person by sharing my story and getting my name out there so they would know who to call or email if they needed advice. She's incredible. She's so kind. That's why I went to TikTok. There's a whole new audience, a new generation. We need messages of hope and encouragement, and we need people to model how to survive and conquer adversity. I'm literally going to cry. She shares that her kids were a primary driving force in her recovery and journey, motivating her to forgive and build trust again. Forgiveness has come with therapy. Faith and religion have helped me. Being a parent as well, because as a parent, you cannot require from your kids what you're not willing to do yourself. I want her leading the country aside from the Mormonism. Like, let's just forget that part right now. Like, pretend she's Buddhist or something. Like, we're just going to push the Mormonism to the side, just the way Mormonism has pushed abuse to the side. So it's fine. This is her with her new husband, and he has children too, I believe. There's like a whole little blended family moment, and then her son is married. So yeah, there's like more kids now. But yeah, look how literally beautiful and gorgeous they are. She is the ideal Mormon. She is. Let's actually put her in charge of the Mormon church. She can fix it. If anyone can fix it, I'm confident it is her. So she said, for anyone who finds themselves in a similar situation, she advises them to focus on something other than your misery in the middle of your horror. This is such good advice that I would never follow. I didn't spend a day in bed. I don't know how, but I was afraid that if I did, I might never get out of bed again. That is so real. Because if once I laid down, I wouldn't be getting up. I didn't let myself indulge in the hatred of my ex-husband because I was afraid I would never be able to pull myself out of it if I did. She is so self-aware because I would have gone full hate, full bed. I would have been in my bed on my phone. I hate you, motherfucker. Like all day, every day, no breaks. In bed, on my phone, hating. She says, focus on something other than your misery, have gratitude, and try to accomplish something every day. Being a parent, focusing on my kids helped me. My worst nightmare in life was to be financially responsible for someone other than myself, and in the end, that's what I got, and I learned I could do it. I survived, which is a huge thing I learned about myself because I didn't even realize what I would be capable of. We were poor, but we survived. She's incredible. So this is her TikTok. If you just search Andrea Merriman, she's on there. She's a speaker. She's a coach. She helps other people overcome trauma. Like I said, she has a 48-part thing. She'll be done soon. But she's literally just such a legend. She's such a legend. She's a legend. Because when I first put this stream on my list, I was putting it on my list for him in like a derogatory way. Like I was like, this guy used religion to fraud people. What a terrible guy. Like, let's get into it. We fucking hate him. Go, go, go. And then when I started researching it, I was like, okay, well, he's literally never said anything publicly ever. So that's a great start. And then when I saw her online, I was like, oh my God, this is so inspirational. Like it's her. Like it's her. The stream is her. I was like he's technically, it's about him, but like it's her. It's her. I stood up and applauded, as you should. As you should. So, according to the case, if he got 12 years, he should have been released in 2022, and most people get out early for good behavior. But I cannot find anything about him online from after he was sentenced. Like the most recent article I could find was the one I just showed you of him being sentenced. So if any of y'all know from her TikToks what he's up to, literally could not find anything about him. I was actually really impressed that you made the stream around her. We are decentering men in 2025. He probably had bad behavior. He was doing more fraud in the jail. Now he's stuck there. Because I thought about it. I was like, I could do this one about him and then do one about her. And then I was like, he really is giving nothing. Like, I have really nothing to say about him other than fuck you. And I felt like learning about him through her perspective is the way that I learned it through watching the shows. I watched, like I said, like 2 shows, a podcast. There's a lot of stuff about her. So like, cause that's how I learned it. And that's the lens I learned it through. No, there's no way he's in witness protection for this. There's no way. No way. He probably started an MLM. So if anyone knows what happened to him, feel free to chime in. And next week, to continue on our thread of terrible men, we will be talking about the Ashley Madison hack. I do not know a ton about this. I'm really excited to learn about it. I am going to do this one as well. I have decided I am taking over the stream again. No, I did not fire my lovely assistant. I'm just having her work on other things that she is better suited to and that I am not suited to, which is how it should work. So anyway, I am back in the driver's seat on this. I'm really excited. I feel very like re-energized around my stream. So the Ashley Madison hack, if you don't don't know, Ashley Madison was a dating website for people that wanted affairs. They were like, do you want to have an affair? That's what this website's for. So they had a data breach, and the hackers stole user data and then basically threatened to release it unless the website was shut down. Ashley Madison denied it, and then the group did release a ton of famous and not famous people being like, he's looking to have an affair. So that shit was fucking crazy. So we're going to talk about like the whole situation in general, and then a few of the people that got their information released during that time. So let me pull up our frickin' game and let's do this thing. If you don't know, at the end of every stream, we do a little game about what we learned. Please include Sam of Sam and Nia in their video. It was truly delusional. Can you email me that? Because I don't know what you're talking about, but I really want to include it. I do not want to hear about Deadbeat Duggar. We will not talk about him at length. I will tell you, I will give him 1 to 2 slides maximum, if any, because I don't know about other stuff, so I don't know if he's going to be included or not. 1 to 2 slides maximum. I will bleep his name, and it'll be very, like, I'll keep it on a need-to-know basis. That's what I'll say, because he was one of the most prominent names in it, but I will not get into any of the other stuff. Like always with him, I will always keep it as minimal as I possibly can and only give you things that are relevant for you to understand other things. That's the promise I will make to you. So like I was saying, if you do not know, let's do underwater because he was in so much debt. If you do not know, we play a little game. It's just trivia about what we learned. It's just for funsies, and your name will come up on the screen. So put something funny if you don't want people to see your name. Let me put it in the multi-stream chat. There we go. So pick a little character. No, I do not need your email. No, you do not have to pay. No, you do not have to make an account. You can do it on your phone. If you do it on your phone, it might be like, download our app. You don't have to. You can do it in the browser. Just ignore that part and keep it moving. Oh, I love Dearpod. While you're joining, I'm going to eat my fudge. Trigger warning. It's so good. See what I mean? That this was a perfect topic. Like, perfect length. Perfect level of detail. Inspirational at the end. Twist and turn. Shock. It was perfect. Absolutely incredible. We haven't had a perfect stream in a while. Underwater means I must choose the octopus because it's funny when the sea animal wears a helmet. Leave him alone. I just got so hungry. I ate a small dinner because I wasn't that hungry. Because I was dealing with the Wells Fargo bullshit. I skipped lunch. But that didn't really affect me that bad because I had breakfast at 11. So, like, whatever. But then at like 5, I was like, damn, I'm starving and I need to work out. So I ate some buffalo chicken dip. But then when I had dinner at like 6:45, I had like 4 bites. So I was like, I'm kind of over this. But now I want a whole meal again. Did you finish going through your doom pile? Yes and no. There's many doom piles going on right now. I'll tell you why. So one, we moved into this house almost 2 months ago. Or was that 2 months? Anyway, we've been living in this house for like roughly 2 to 3 months, somewhere around that amount. So not all of those doom piles are done yet. I'll be honest, there's still 3 boxes that need to be unpacked. I'll say it. Then the school year ended. My school is rearranging everyone and the school is being deep cleaned. So we had to take everything home, which is not normally the case. Normally we can leave everything there and leave our stuff on the walls and we don't move. But like y'all saw, things are changing. So everything had to come home. So all my school stuff is here. That's why like this is from school. This map is from school. So there's doom piles of all my school stuff that I posted on my story the other day. Some of that was school stuff. Some of it was stuff that I just hadn't dealt with from moving. That doom pile is dealt with. Yes, I am working on the YouTube video about buying our house. It's going to be very, like, comprehensive. I'm working on it. I'm making good progress. I'm excited. Anyway, so doom pile, school. Doom pile, moving. Then I went to my parents' house. What was that? A week or 2 ago? And my parents were like, we have all this shit here from your childhood. Take it. And I was like, you know what? Let's take it right now. I'm sure if I had told them, like, no, I can't take that right now. I'll deal with it later. They would have been fine with it. But I was like, there's already so many doom piles, like let's go ahead and get after it. Like, add it on right now. Now's the time. Let's do it. So I have not touched that stuff at all. One thing that is really cool, though, I don't know if y'all can see it while you're joining the game. They had this sculpture that I made in high school. It's right here. I don't want to pick it up because every time I pick it up, it cuts me. But it's a hand made. It's a ceramic hand that I made that's covered in broken mirrors. And then there's a candle that's like melted onto it that's red. So that's why it kind of looks like blood. But I like lit the candle when I made it. It's super cool. It's like one of my favorite pieces of art I've ever made. I used to be really into art. More so photography. I was not that into sculpture, but I love that sculpture. And so when I found it at my parents' house, I was like, oh, I should put that up here. Also, this I wear in class sometimes. This is a G.I. Joe doll that was actually my inheritance from my grandfather, because we used to put it in airplanes and then he would crash the airplanes and then they would catch on fire. And then once the fire went out, he'd be like, go find the doll. And I would find him. So that's why he's like a little bit fucked up. Like, you can't really tell, but like he's a little bit fucked up. But yeah, and sometimes we would put my Barbies in there too. My parents keep giving me crock pots and blenders. I just stop by Savers on the way home usually. Oh my god, there's a lot of you in the game tonight. So yeah, that's some of my cool items that we have. I also just ordered, I'm super excited, I ordered some like collectible Barbies from the 90s that are going to go on here as well. Big things happening, big exciting things happening. Let me go ahead and start this game for you all. I'm sitting here talking about myself. I hope I did this right. I was very rushed making these questions. Everything unpacked except 3 boxes is incredible with teaching and jobs. It's really, a lot of it is because I've been off all this week and most of last week too. So a lot got done in the last couple days. And I also, this is what I did, ADHD hack. I invited a ton of people over for Father's Day brunch to force myself to deal with this remaining doom pile. So that's why when my parents were like, take this, I was like, you know what? I already have a fire under my ass. Like, let's go ahead and do it. So yeah. And that's coming up soon. And then I have an event on Friday night that I'm going to as well, that I need to get ready for. Like, I'm like working. So I have to like have my shit together to go there. What snack do I want? Maybe I'll make a sandwich. Yeah, I'm gonna make a sandwich. That sounds really good. Because I have good stuff for it. I have like turkey, but like from a deli, like good. Like the thick real turkey, not like the weird shiny one. I don't like that one. And then I have like a salami kit, so I can make like a nice turkey and salami and put some avocado on there. Now we're cooking. Yeah. Where'd my phone go? Oh, it's right here. Y'all are good at this. Choose the revenge! That's funny. That's really funny. That's really, really funny. A Dutch Bros parking lot. Every time you're on here, I love that you're here, but it also reminds me that I've never had Dutch Bros and I really want to try it. How did Sean initially begin the Ponzi scheme? I want good coffee. I haven't had a good coffee in so long because the last couple years, every time I've been to a Starbucks or a Dunkin' Donuts, it's literally been disgusting. And yesterday I got a coffee from Krispy Kreme and it was also really deeply unimpressive. I'm going to Nashville in a couple weeks. Don't they have Dutch Bros there? Oh, it's like kind of far from where I'm gonna be, but maybe. We'll see. Oh no, they have a lot of them. I don't know why only one came up. Yeah, maybe I'll try it when I'm in Nashville. I posted on my story about it with the, let me look up the name and like make sure that I'm doing this correctly. Okay, so with the Unteachables comedy tour, these people, They invited me to come yap with them in Nashville on the 18th. So if you're in Nashville and want to come hang out, I'm very nervous. Very, very nervous. But I know Steven a little bit because he was on the podcast and he's super funny, and I was like down to do it because they basically told me like nothing's off limits, because I was like, a lot of like the teacher comedy, like they don't want you to talk about sex, they don't want you to curse, they don't want you to like do these things, and I'm like, well, if I'm gonna be funny, like I need to have free reign, and they were like, absolutely free reign. So I was like, okay, I'm down. I'm excited. I'm scared, but I'm excited. And also I've never been to Nashville, so I'm excited to go to Nashville. What is the name of his investment firm? Also, today I tried Olipop and it was like not horrific. It definitely wasn't soda and wasn't as good, but it wasn't awful. I tried the cherry cola one. I'm trying to stop drinking soda for vanity reasons. Hopefully I do amazing. Hopefully. Worst case scenario, I don't know anyone in Nashville, so I can just pretend that never happened. What are we learning about next week? Ashley Madison. Glad you all got that right, because it's literally on the screen right now. Alrighty, choose the revenge. In first place, Ponzi Princess, an African Safari parking lot, Amanda, Quick Trip, a Dutch Bros parking lot, Shelbs, Fraud on Commissary, Kamika, Shay, Casserole, secretly doing fraud, Amanda, Andrea, teach me your ways, Meg Lord, ASMR Fudge, Mormon Money, Emily, Ash, a Sir Back Alley parking lot, Melly Lynn, the kitchen sink, and a couple people that fell off. Nice job. Any memes? Poppy is better than Olipop. It's a little less acidic tasting. I tried Poppy once and it was really gross, but maybe it was just the flavor I tried. I think I tried their Dr. Pepper knockoff and it just didn't taste like Dr. Pepper, and that turned me off from them. Because I have tried Poppy before. Memes, anything I missed? I'm so sad you haven't had good coffee in 2 years. No, I've had good coffee, just not from a chain. So like, I make good coffee. I like when I make coffee. And then a couple times I have had really good coffees at like random restaurants and places. I just haven't had a good coffee from a chain in a very long time. I will say I like the fruity Olipop, Poppy, etc. much more than the knockoff ones. Yeah, I think I need to try some of those. This onion won't make me cry. Andrea invested her gigantic inheritance in Sean's scammy company. That is a good one. That is good. And this is the other problem. When I say a coffee, I like espresso. Espresso. And what I do is I do a double shot of espresso, like equal parts that, and then equal parts like full fat sugar creamer. And it works out to about the size of a small coffee. So that's not a latte, but it's not a latte either. Because I'll tell you where I first started drinking coffee. All those people of my generation, I graduated high school in 2016, that would like get their Starbucks every morning, that was never me. I was introduced to coffee when I was in Spain, not to be the most annoying person ever, but that is a sentence I just said. And it was café con leche, which is literally equal parts espresso with full fat milk. And then I would mix sugar into it. And I was like, this is phenomenal. And it made me feel so good. And then I just felt like I had so much more energy throughout the day. Like, I love the feeling of an espresso, and I don't throw it back. It takes me a long time to drink it. I sip it very, very slow. So that's how I started drinking coffee. And then I kind of started going to Starbucks and drinking iced caramel macchiatos. And then my ex-boyfriend's mom told me that's what was giving me acne, and she was right. And then I got an espresso, and that's how I started doing my little like 1-in-1, which I like that better than an iced caramel macchiato or like an iced latte or anything like that. The only time I go out and get coffee is sometimes I like a coffee milkshake. Sometimes I'll go get, but that's more like a sweet treat than a coffee. Or if I'm out of town. If I'm out of town, I will be going and getting coffee other places. Because like I said, I like an espresso. Not that literally any of you asked, but actually someone did bring it up. I get iced shaken espresso from Starbucks. I think I've tried that. But that when I tried it, it was like in the era where Starbucks started being bad. I guess it's actually even been longer than 2 years. It's really like ever since COVID, I feel like coffee shops became like super inconsistent, which Dunkin' was always inconsistent, but I felt like Starbucks was very consistent. And then after COVID, I just felt like it became wildly inconsistent and more expensive. So I was like, bye-bye. And that's why I got the Nespresso, which like I do hate the Nespresso because it breaks after a year and a half without fail, right when the warranty end fucking breaks. But the coffee is really good. I used to drink 4 shots and 2 Splenda over ice. That's my other problem. I'm allergic to artificial sweeteners. So a lot of like the low cal coffees I can't really do, which sucks. I can do stevia, but I just don't like it. So it's like partially my fault. But anyway, that's a sign we need to end this. Tonight was very fun. I will see you next week for Ashley Madison. I love you so much. Sleep tight. Have a good night. And always keep your own money in your own name at a major institution where you can keep an eye on everything, because Andrea did literally everything right. And praise the Saint Andrea. That's who I pray to at night, is her, because I could never.